Testimony continued today in the trial of former New York Assembly Speaker Shelley Silver, but this is going to get a little confusing. Now, we've been getting reports from inside the Silver courtroom every day, and today we'll also be shifting gears. Yes, we've even built a new animation. Opening statements began today in the corruption trial of former New York State Senate Majority Leader Dean Skelos and his son. We need a scorecard for this. And our own Dominic Carter's there, and he was in the Skelos courtroom for the drama. He joins us live from Lower Manhattan with the latest on both trials. Dominic, over to you.
Richard, I'm so glad you used the word drama. I've been listening to you and the panel on what happened in Paris, and it makes you think about this entire area down by City Hall, what, God forbid, could happen here. But let's talk about the issue at hand. Live right now, we are standing by with a lot of photographers. Court has gone on much longer than expected in the Sheldon Silver trial. We are waiting for Mr. Silver to come down from these stairs at the federal courthouse, the Thurgood Marshall courthouse. But it has been some day. Let's switch over now to the Dean Skelos situation. I want you to take a look at, Richard, what happened literally just minutes ago. Mr. Skelos, just a quick comment, please. Mr. Skelos, a quick comment, please.
Thank you.
Mr. Skelos, will you be vindicated? Mr. Skelos is on trial at a nearby courthouse, the courthouse of Daniel Patrick Moynihan, about a block and a half from here, the courthouse named after the former senator. And the former Senate Majority Leader is on trial for allegedly pushing for no-show jobs for his son, Adam, who happens to be 32 years old. So you just happen to see what happened with the Majority Leader, the former Majority Leader, minutes ago. He was having none of it as I attempted to ask him some questions, and he jumped into a cab and sped off, surrounded by his lawyers. That's what happened outside. Now, here's what happened inside earlier today. The prosecutor came out swinging first in opening statement saying, quote, "There was no better scenario for getting bribes for something you would have done anyway." Then it was the defense turn. The lawyer for Dean Skelos acknowledged there will be an allegation Skelos changed his position on, for example, fracking, and sold his vote. Repeatedly, defense counsel for Skelos said there was no quid pro quo. In one reference, the lawyers say, quote, "Adam exaggerated about what his father could do and would do." The defense lawyer then said, "Something Skelos traded for Adam?" Answering emphatically, no. Richard, what's going to be interesting in the Skelos trial, it's going to be quite juicy. There's no other way to put it in terms of wiretaps, recorded telephone conversations between Mr. Skelos and his son Adam. Defense counsel were referencing that several times this afternoon, as well as the prosecutors. Now, talking about those wiretap telephone calls, the defense counsel said that you're going to hear talk allegedly that they were talking in criminal code, and the defense counsel, perhaps this is a good one, he said it was not criminal code that they were talking about, it was rather shorthand in the method that Mr. Skelos and his son were using to communicate, and they didn't realize they were being recorded by the feds. So again, Richard, as we are live right now, court has gone late tonight. I'm going back and forth between trials here. The court has gone late as we're waiting for Mr. Silver to come out. The prosecution was expected to wrap up its case tonight. That did not happen. The prosecution will continue tomorrow in the Silver trial, but they are expected to conclude tomorrow. The judge has said she wants to do closing arguments on Monday. She wants to give a closing charge to the jury on Tuesday morning, and then she plans on putting this in the hands of the jury by Tuesday afternoon. So you have one trial here, Richard, another trial right around the room, and right around the corner in another courthouse room. And all I could think about, Richard, in conclusion, here's Mr. Silver. I see he's walking his way up. Let's turn over and take a shot. I'm going to try, Richard. since we are live, and just get a quick reaction from Mr. Silver. Mr. Silver, I know that you and your counsel have not much to say publicly about this, but we are on live television. How would you sum up the day, what happened today?
It's consistent with every other day. I believe at the end of this case, I will be vindicated.
A week from now, does it make you nervous? I see your counsel standing here. Does it make you nervous that a week from today, from right now, your fate could be in the hands of the jury?
It makes me nervous, but I'm confident that this jury will see that I should be vindicated.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us live tonight. We thank you, Ken. Wait, one last question. Is there going to be a defense? Are you going to put on a defense? I don't mean to put you on the question live. Put you on the...
Discussed in the court.
Okay, discussed in the courtroom. Thank you very much, Mr. Silver. And so, vindicated, huh? The audience doesn't know that's an ongoing joke you and I have had every night in which you say Mr. Silver will be vindicated. So it'll be interesting. Will there be a defense?
You tried with him?
We'll see tomorrow.
We'll see tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much. And so, Richard, Mr. Silver came out of a separate door tonight. We were standing. That's part of the problem for us as journalists, as we try to put questions to these officials here. They come out of different doors. Some of the doors, they're escorted by U.S. Marshals. It's a tough situation. But again, that is it for now. You just heard from Mr. Silver live as this trial is coming to a close. Let's go back to you, Richard.
Hey, Dom, a couple questions. Let me first start on the Silver side. Obviously, they focused on those asbestos cases, mesothelioma with Dr. Taub, that we focused on. The next portion of the prosecution trial they laid into was that lobbyists, one in particular, felt pressured here on the real estate transactions, which enriched Silver directly to the tune of about $600,000, that again, under this quid pro quo. How much headway did the prosecution make on the real estate portion? The testimony of one Brian Mira saying that he was in an uncomfortable position where he didn't want to upset by saying no to obviously one of the three most important people in Albany.
Well, excellent question. And there are some that believe, Richard, that perhaps if the jury doesn't buy the argument of the meat of the case as it relates to Dr. Taub, that perhaps the prosecutors, the federal prosecutors, might be able to get a conviction on that matter. In terms of the allegation with Mr. Mira and others that Glenwood Real Estate, that the speaker referred cases and pushed to help with tax abatements. We're talking about big money for companies that they appeal their tax situation and they save lots of money. And the allegation is that Mr. Silver received kickbacks in terms of described as referrals as a lawyer. You used the word quid pro quo, and I'm so glad that you did, Richard, because to be honest with you, I don't know if I'm coming or going in terms of from the Silver trial to the Skelos trial. All you hear all day long from defense counsel is no quid pro quo, no quid pro quo. This judge in the Silver trial has said that, that this evidence is all circumstantial and that it's going to be up to the jury to decide what was going on inside Mr. Silver's head. So
and last
I
question,
don't know,
Don,
Richard, on any of these charges.
I hear
it's going to be very interesting.
I hear you. We have heard, though, the scuttlebutt that on the Skelos trial, I don't know if it was Adam or his dad, but one of them was in plea negotiations to try and strike a deal with the prosecution. Do we have any idea whether it was father or son and where that stands?
Thanks for that question, because we can clarify and answer it. It was clearly the son. Before federal judge Kimber Wood, the judge that's hearing the case in the Skelos situation, the lawyer for Adam Skelos, the son of Dean Skelos, the lawyer admitted in court this morning, Richard, that he, that is the lawyer for Adam Skelos, had inquired about a possible plea bargain with the feds, in his words, that he was doing so that he can best represent his client, Adam Skelos. So it was not Dean Skelos' lawyer, it was the son, but apparently that went nowhere, and now both men are in trial, Richard.
All right, Dominic, keep up the good work tomorrow. Another important day in Lower Manhattan. Dominic Carter, thank you so much. And Yeah, Dominic's having a heck of a time down there. All right, and vindicated. We set the over/under at 4. We only got 3. All right. Seriously though, Brad. Joking around aside, I don't care if you're on the Democratic side, Republican side. If at the end of the day, there's acquittals across the board here, the ones who lose the most are the public with any faith in Albany. Because what's been put forward isn't denials that people are getting enriched here by using the power of their office. The only question is whether it's legal or not. And if at the end of the day it's believed that that's okay, that's the worst indictment about just how bad it is. It's confirming all the worst suspicions, even though most of the folks I really believe are good. Dominic always makes a joke, 3 out of 4 crooks or whatever. We always laugh at him and tell him he's wrong. But it's only going to feed that cynicism with the public. I mean, and it's looking, at least on the silver side, I wouldn't bet on convictions here. So it doesn't look pretty.
Yeah, and I think you're spot on with that assessment of what the feeling is amongst the citizenry would be, is that they already think that Albany stinks, and they think there's corruption, and I think all these arrests didn't help matters in terms of the optics of Albany. But at the end of the day, this does come down to the law, and the law is somewhat unclear in terms of outside income and what these individuals who are part-time elected officials can do. And as a result, you get some, sloppy activity along the way. And I think now you're trying to see it sorted out in the form of a trial for corruption, and we'll see where it goes. Whether the jury agrees with the prosecution or believes that there's enough of a quid pro quo, how tight that case is, or they just say, look, this is what lawyers do.
Jessica, should we have any faith that however this shakes out in Albany, that if there are acquittals, the message won't really be to the folks that are there, hey, if they threw the best case at this, Bahara threw the kitchen sink at this, right? And they all skated, why not go back to the way it was?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you see people feeling a distrust in their government from the federal level pretty much all the way down. One of the most interesting things, I think, for me has been to just see sort of some sunlight on how things are done in Albany. It's always been traditionally known as a very murky, kind of opaque process. You need to hire lobbyists in order to get anything done legislatively. So it's for the public, I think it's been the first time that they've really been exposed to kind of the inner workings of Albany, which I think both the press and the public have found fascinating.
There's no denials, Jeannie. That's the scariest part. No one's denying what's being alleged, but they're saying, yeah, so I made $3-4 million on that. Nothing wrong about that. And you say, wait a minute. You're using taxpayer funds in the case of Silver as it related with the law of referrals, specifically with the doctor in the medical clinic. You're using taxpayer funds, and magically all these cases get referred to this, where you then get enriched to the tune of $3 to $4 million. That's legal and that's okay. And if I had to bet money, I defy anybody to take odds against me that Silver will walk on this. I mean, it's so scary.
It's so scary. And, I think it's what we always say about these cases. It's what's legal that is absolutely stunning. And you're absolutely right. The attorneys are saying, yes, they did this, and it was absolutely legal. And you know what? The jury may find that that's true. And shame on the governor for being elected on the promise to clean up Albany. And there's been absolutely no headway in that direction. And I want to see if any
accountability shows up at the ballot box,
absolutely
at the ballot
won't, by
box
the
on
way.
this one. All right. I'm getting yelled because we're really happy. So when we come back here, New York versus daily online fantasy sports sites, one of the biggest sites now offline for New Yorkers after the AG goes to court to take them down. We'll hear from the Attorney General and our panel right after this.